Housing Justice Rally at 2:14 to 2:30 Sherbourne. Community demands action against corporate neglect and displacement.
People's march for housing justice!
People's march for housing justice!
Tenants, housing advocates, and community members gathered at 2:14 to 2:30 Sherbourne Street in Moss Park to demand urgent action on Toronto's housing crisis. This rally marked the start of the People's March for Housing Justice, which then proceeded downtown, ending in the financial district. The Sherbourne lot, vacant for 17 years and now a symbol of corporate neglect, was a focus point. Speakers called out major developers for driving up rents and displacing tenants across the city.
Want to draw attention to the property that we are gathered in front of. 214 to 230 Sherbourne has been standing vacant for 17 years as a crisis of poverty, homelessness, and a housing crisis cuts deeper into the life of this community. So I want to acknowledge a couple of things about this land. And the first thing I must of course acknowledge is that it's stolen land. It was taken from the indigenous people that lived on this land from time immemorial. It was stolen from them. It was an enormous injustice. But not only that, having dispossessed indigenous people, this colonial society pushed people to the margins and abandoned people. So a vastly disproportionate number of indigenous people are the ones who have had to sleep on these streets, live on these streets, and die on these streets, and that is an absolute disgrace. So if we are building a movement for housing justice, we are building a movement that challenges colonialism and demands indigenous rights and demands indigenous sovereignty. That's absolutely fundamental to our movement. I also want to say that it is beyond shameful that this property continues to stand idle, and worse than that, it has been bought up by a notorious and despicable developer by the name of KingSett Capital. And KingSett actually took this property with the intention of turning it into a luxury condominium in a poor working class neighbourhood that desperately needs housing, and that is beyond shameful. And we are challenging that today. We're challenging that, and we're using this property here, this abandoned property that we demand must become social housing that meets the needs of the community. We are saying that this property must be regarded as a symbol of the fundamental injustices that exist with regards to housing in the city of Toronto and beyond. And today, we're not just going to decry what is happening, we're going to march down into the financial district, and we're going to go to the headquarters of some of the vilest human beings on the face of the planet. We're going to be visiting corporate landlords, we're going to be visiting developers, investors, and an assortment of oxygen-wasting parasites. And in doing this, I want to make clear that this march is not simply about registering opposition or registering a protest. This is about building a movement. We have a message for the developers, we have a message for their political enablers at Queen's Park and City Hall, but more than anything, we have a message for people of communities like this one. And that is that if you want housing justice, if you want housing that meets your needs, you're going to have to be prepared to fight for it, you're going to have to be prepared to struggle for it. And our idea in taking up this march is a march to challenge the obscenity of this abandonment that takes place here, but to issue a call to communities all across this city to rally together, to mobilize together, to struggle together, and to build a movement for housing justice. Thank you very, very much.
Speakers emphasized how poverty and homelessness are concentrated in neighborhoods like Moss Park.
Over 400 men live in this shelter. Why? Because we are bad people? Is it because we don't want housing? No! Because rent in Toronto is too expensive. Developers are building luxury condos, which makes the cost of housing skyrocket. We then are left with no option. Greed is their god, while so many of us are there being displaced and made homeless. But the story is that it's fair for us that the government and developers want us to believe that it's our fault that we are homeless. Shame! Like we aren't trying hard enough, but that isn't true. We are here today to send a clear message to the people that the system is rigged against us, and we must all be part of changing that together. The media wants you to think that mental health or addiction or refugees are the reasons for homelessness. But homelessness has doubled in Toronto in the last 10 years because the rent is too high. The despair of wondering if we were able to live with dignity, that's what causes our mental health to deteriorate. They want us to blame each other instead of binding together.
That's right.
But they will not divide us. The Toronto Underhoused and Homeless Union is here in solidarity with all those wonderful organizations. We may come from different life experiences, but we're fighting for a common goal. The city is a city for all. We will not be pushed out. We are all humans, worthy of space, worthy of safety, worthy of opportunity, worthy of peace. Affordable housing is the foundation for all of us.
The movement calls for real investment in public housing and stronger tenant protections.
We're not far from our building right now. We live in St. Jamestown, which is just up the street. Last year, we came together as neighbors to be a collective voice for our building. Since then, we've circulated a petition to our landlord, held social events, and have assisted other buildings in our neighborhood to get organized. The neglect of infrastructure in our neighborhood becomes more noticeable year over year. In July 2024, a massive rainstorm caused major damage to one of our neighboring buildings, 77 Howard. They are left without regular electricity for months. Our building experienced frequent water disruptions in the aftermath of the storm. These problems are the responsibility of the slumlords who control our neighborhood. Renee Management, Medallion Corporation, Wellesley Parliament Square, Greenwind, and the Toronto Community Housing Corporation. Instead of investing in the repairs and upgrades that are required to keep our aging apartment towers livable into the future, they let their buildings fall into disrepair. All the while, they jack up rents through AGIs, expecting tenants to pay more while getting less. The basic unfairness of these rental arrangements is increasingly obvious to us. The median family income in St. Jamestown is $35,000, according to data from 2018. For most people in our neighborhood, the quote-unquote Canadian dream of home ownership is not a realistic possibility. Faced with a hostile rental market, our best option is to fight against greedy landlords and to demand better conditions. We know that rent-seeking landlords and profit-driven developers will not offer people either security of tenure, adequate living conditions, or long-term affordability. The only way to achieve these goals is to struggle together against AGIs, to fight for rent control, and to demand more non-profit housing. So now and forever, housing for people, not for profit!
Events like this rally are vital for raising public awareness and putting pressure on decision makers to address Toronto's housing crisis. They give voice to residents directly impacted by rising tenants' displacement and unaffordable living conditions. For communities in Toronto's downtown east, these gatherings are a powerful form of civic engagement, uniting people to demand policies that prioritize housing as a human right and protect the future of their neighborhoods.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also follow us on social media, and for more information, check out our website.